Hi guys and welcome back. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make this cranberry and white chocolate cake. Let's begin. To get started on the recipe, you'll want to make the cake. So to do the cake, you'll want to make the buttermilk alternative first. So just add in your vinegar to the milk, give it a good mix, then set aside until needed later on. Then into a large mixing bowl, you can go ahead and add in all of your dry ingredients, which is self-rising flour, followed by the granulated white sugar, your raisin agents. Then just give it all a good mix until it's fully combined. Once it's combined, you can then add in your wet ingredients. Feel free to keep the mixer going if you want to and just mix them in, or add all the wet in and mix. It doesn't really make too much of a difference. So your wet is the buttermilk alternative, the oil and the vanilla. Then just give it all a good mix until you have a clear cake batter. It should look like a box mix and it'll be very liquid. This is completely normal. Then give the bowl a good scraping down, and this is just to incorporate any bits that may not have been fully worked in from earlier on. Then divide that between your 3 6-inch cake tins, and I like to weigh mine to get more accuracy, but you do it however. Place them into your preheated oven and bake them off. All that information will be in the blog post, which will be linked down below. To make the buttercream, you'll want to go ahead and grab yourself a heat-proof bowl, and into that add in your egg whites followed by the sugar, then give them a good mix together until they are fully combined. I'm using a whisk, so you'll want to whisk them, not mix them, and just keep whisking until they're combined. Then you'll want to place over a bowl of simmering water and continue to whisk until the granules of the sugar have completely melted and dissolved and you can't feel it in the mixture. I will also leave the temperature you should get it up to in the blog post, which will be linked down below, so don't forget to check that out if you're interested. Once it comes up to temperature, you can then transfer that into a stand mixing bowl and then just whisk on a high speed until it becomes very smooth and glossy, and it should look more like a standard meringue. Then you can go ahead and add in your chunks of butter, and the bottom of the bowl should be helped to be touched with the back of your hand before you add the butter, as otherwise it will turn into a wet sloppy mess, which is not pleasant. Adding your butter chunk by chunk until it's all been added and fully incorporated. It will take on a slightly yellowish hue, but this is completely normal, and just keep mixing and it will become more pale. Then add in your vanilla extract and just mix until it's been fully incorporated. Then you've got the basic buttercream made. But because this is a Christmas recipe, I wanted to elevate it a little bit. So just before we do that, you'll want to give the bowl a good scraping down, and this is just to incorporate any bits that may not have been fully worked in from earlier on. So don't forget to scrape the top and the bottom of the bowl. Then add in some melted white chocolate, which has been allowed to cool down, so if it's a little warm, it's okay. And then don't forget to add in some homemade cranberry sauce. Once you've done that, you can then mix it on a low speed to start with, working up to a medium-high speed, and mix until you have a solid coloured buttercream. You may get a few specks here and there that haven't been fully incorporated, but don't worry. When you're giving the bowl a good scraping down, this will just incorporate those bits that may not have been fully worked in from earlier on. So when it comes to the decorating, you can go ahead and grab your plate, board or stand and place a blob of buttercream into the centre, pressing your first layer of cake down to secure it in place on top of it. Then pipe a ring of buttercream around the outer edge of the cake and add a little bit inside and just spread that out until you've got a thin coating. Then fill that with some of that homemade cranberry sauce. I made mine myself, but feel free to use store-bought, but I find homemade has got much more flavour. Layer your second layer of cake on top and pipe a ring of buttercream on the outside. You're just repeating the process. Thin layer in the middle, fill with that homemade cranberry sauce, and then top with your final layer of cake. Make sure you get more level than I did. Mine was a little bit wonky, but who cares, nobody's paying attention. It's Christmas, you'll eat the cake anyway. Then you can go ahead and start to decorate the cake. So I pipe my buttercream all the way around the outer edge of the cake, and it doesn't need to be perfect, as we later on in the recipe will smooth it out and it'll get rid of any imperfections. But again, if you're looking for something super perfect, take a bit more time, but if you're looking for something a little bit more rustic, feel free to leave it a little bit more rough and ready. The choice is up to you. Then you can go ahead and just start to smooth it out. I like to start with the top and then work my way onto the sides, but feel free to do it however works best for you, or whichever way you know to do. I'm using a small scraper, but I know some people prefer to use a palette knife. I just find a scraper so much easier. Once you're happy, just smooth off that edge as well, get rid of the jagged edge. Or you can keep it, I've done that in the past and it looks good on a cake. But once you're happy, you can then go ahead and finish the cake off. For me, I just do this with a simple swirl that is on top of the cake. And I just take a palette knife and rotate the cake constantly and just move that palette knife more into the centre so you get a swirl on top. Then around the outer edge, I just sprinkle on some white chocolate chips with some dried cranberries, and then that's it. It's really quick, easy, simple, doesn't need to be over the top. This is a last minute Christmas recipe. You don't need something that's going to be over the top and extravagant. If you do, check out former years of Bakemas, and you'll be able to see that I've done other stuff as well. So thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more from me, and I'll be back again soon with another recipe, so join me then. In the meanwhile, don't forget to check out the description, there'll be a link to this recipe, a link to my blog, and links to all my social media. But that's all for today, I hope you enjoyed. Bye guys.